preserved perfectly, unchanged and inerrant, just as Allah wrote it. The perfection claim Allah makes on behalf of his Quran would be impossible, even if Allah were God. Language is an imperfect tool. One word can mean many things, and meanings often change with inflection. Connotation is altered by context, something the Quran lacks. Knowing the time, place, and parties to a conversation is required to establish the intended implication. For example, the classical Arabic word used for fighting could just as easily be translated killing, and the word for virgin is indistinguishable from the classic Arabic word for white grape. Yahweh knew better. He never said his scripture was inerrant. He said it was sufficient. But while we're on the subject, I'd like to share something you might find interesting. There are 1,000 prophecies in the Bible, most of which are exacting. There have been no misses. There are thousands of detailed historical depictions in the text, none of which has ever been shown to be invalid. The Quran's obsession with demented torments is proof of a different kind of inspiration. Its fixation on fatalism, the annihilation of choice, and therefore the impossibility of love, provides another salient clue as to the nature of Islam's dark spirit.
Quran 52, verse 7. Verily the doom and torment of your Lord will surely come to pass. There is none that can avert it or ward it off.
This God is a nasty and violent fellow.
52, verse 9. On the day when heaven will heave in dreadful shaking, trembling, and the mountains will fly hither and thither, woe to those who reject me, that play in shallow trifles and sport in vain discourses. That day they will be pushed down by force, thrust with a horrible thrust into the fire of hell. Unable to resist, they shall be driven to the fire with violence.
This is demented.
Quran 52, verse 14. This, it will be said, is the fire which you used to deny. Is this a magic fake? Burn therein. Endure the heat. Taste it. It's the same whether you bear it patiently or not. This is my retaliation for what you did.
This, too, is blatantly demonic. Those who are willing to trust a spirit that is carnal shall be rewarded in like fashion. That is, if he's not the devil.
Quran 52, verse 17. Verily, the mutakun, those who fear, will be in gardens of delight, enjoying the bliss which their Lord has provided, and their Lord save them from the torment of the blazing fire. Eat and drink with glee because of what you used to do.
Damning, robbing, enslaving, and murdering people for me.
They will recline with ease on throne couches of dignity, arranged in ranks, and we shall join them to beautiful Hur, the female maidens, with big lustrous eyes.
The fact that heaven and hell are consistently depicted in Muhammad's parochial image is a sign that his passions inspired this part of the Quran, not God's.
Quran 52, verse 21. Those who believe and whose families follow them in faith, to them we shall join their offspring, nor shall we deprive them of their works, yet each individual is in pledge for his deeds.
Imagine that. Wives and children will be joined to their husbands and fathers who are cavorting with the virgins. Well, that ought to be entertaining.
And we shall provide fruit and meat, anything they desire. There they shall pass from hand to hand a wine cup, free of frivolity, free of all taint of vanity or cause of sin.
Allah's brew of free frivolity sounds like a date rape drug. This less than heavenly picture continues with these perverse strokes.
Quran 52, verse 24. Round about them will serve, devoted to them, young boy servants of their own, handsome as well-guarded pearls.
In previous verses, Allah used the well-guarded pearl reference to designate virgins, maidens, whose virtue was hidden or protected in closed shells. Now, in reference to handsome and devoted boy servants, it sounds like homosexuality.
They will advance to each other, drawing near, engaging in mutual equerry. They will say, "We used to be afraid of the punishment in the midst of our families, but Allah has been good to us and has delivered us from the torment of the scorching wind and breath of fire."
Could Allah be saying that they previously suppressed their homosexual urges for fear of their family's wrath, but now they are out of the closet?
Quran 52, verse 28. "We used to invoke him before. Truly, he the benign, the merciful."
A benign and merciful tormentor. Now there's a thought. I can only wonder how Muslims justify the obvious contradiction between their God's definition and his behavior.
"Therefore remind, by the grace of your Lord you are no vulgar soothsayer, nor are you a possessed madman."
Another translation reads,
"Therefore warn, men, Muhammad, by the grace of Allah you are neither a soothsayer nor a madman."
Either way, it's evidence that neither Muhammad nor the Meccans were convinced.
Quran 52, verse 30. "Or do they say, a poet? We await for him some evil accidental calamity, hatched by time. Say, await you, I too will wait along with you."
From another translation,
"Say unto them, accept your fill. Lo, I am with you among the expectant."
with the words that the Islamic scholar arbitrarily added to the text to make the message seem rational removed, the verse actually reads,
"Say, accept, lo, I am with you among the expectant."
Why scholars may quibble over the meaning, I think one thing is clear. Illiterate men ought not to author Scripture. Ali's translation explains,
"Do they say, he is a poet from whom we expect an adverse turn of fortune?"
How perceptive! The Meccans saw Muhammad as a con artist, ready to pick their pockets. And he did. The poet robbed their caravans, stole their town, and then usurped all rights associated with their religious scam. To rebut his critics, the pot called the kettle black.
Quran 52, verse 32. "Is it that their mental faculties of understanding urge them to do this? Or are they an outrageous folk, transgressing beyond the bounds?"
While the never-ending argument between the Meccans and Muhammad over the prophet's lack of prophetic credentials is wearisome, this verse demonstrates the Quran's lack of divine inspiration. An all-knowing God would never have asked such a question. As the argument raged on, Muhammad's kin were ever more convinced that the wannabe prophet was simply fabricating his divine credentials so as to steal their money.
Quran 52, verse 33. "Or do they say he fabricated? Nay, they will never believe. Let them then produce a recital, or speech, or announcement, or discourse, the like unto it, if they speak the truth."
The Meccans knew what we have learned. Muhammad was making this up as he went along. And the best the prophet could do was say, "Prove I'm lying by producing a recital as good as this." The early Hanif poem by Zayed, upon which the early surahs are based, was easily as good, if not much, much better. And the Bible, from which later surahs were plagiarized, was infinitely more rational, more prophetic, and godly. Therefore, based upon the challenge, Muhammad's recitals were false. We have called his bluff, but then again it wasn't a big deal, as you shall soon see. Adolf Hitler's rants were better than this.
Quran 52, verse 35. "Were they created of nothing, or were they themselves their creators? Or did they create the heavens and earth? Nay, they have no certainty. Do they possess the treasures of your Lord? Or are they the tyrant treasurers set in absolute authority to do as they like?"
With the Kaaba ink. Now that's our boy. Muhammad saw himself as the one set in absolute authority to do anything he liked. As such, he was empowered to pirate treasures and cavort immorally without recrimination. Moreover, he actually got away with it. Pressing his case, the Lord is alleged to have asked,
in Quran 52:38, "Or have they a ladder by which they can climb up to heaven and listen to its secrets? Then let such a listener of theirs produce a warning, manifesting proof."
According to Muhammad, Adam bumped his head on heaven, so the Islamic heaven isn't very high. A ladder would have been sufficient. Moreover, since Mecca was devoid of wood and carpenters, just building a ladder would have been a bigger miracle than Mohammed or his dark spirit ever mustered.
Quran 52:39.